train's brought us here, to Hakodate, Japan, and we have a little less than 24 hours to explore this amazing city. So I decided to get started right away by doing a few setup shots outside the station. But Ayuan had other ideas, so I guess I'll just set this one up on the bus. Well, it's starting to get a little dim outside, so we're going to head up to higher ground and check out the night view of the city of Hakodate. Apparently it's one of the more amazing night views to be seen. So here we go. To reach the viewpoint, we're going to take the Mount Hakodate ropeway, a very easy way to access the top. We simply purchase a ticket and ride your way up to enjoy the view. This should be really spectacular, as the view from Mount Hakodate was rated by Michelin's Green Guide Japan as 3 out of 3 stars, a very prestigious rating indeed. Once we reached the top, we saw the crowds that we expected to, but were able to get outside onto the observation platform fairly easily. And when we did, what we saw was truly breathtaking. The city of Hakodate, alit, looks a bit like the tail of a whale, which contributes somewhat to the mystique of this area. Regardless of what other plans you may have while in Hakodate, you would be crazy not to make the trip up to enjoy this stunning view of the city. Once you're done taking in the view, you can simply ride the ropeway back down to the station and you're on your way. Well, now that we've seen most of Hakodate from up on the hill, it's time to head over to the hotel, get some dinner, and get rested and recharged for tomorrow. See you then.
Konnichiwa from Hakodate, Japan. We're going to go out today and find Goryokaku, which is a fortress that was designed in a very special way to help defend the strategically very important area back in the mid-1800s.
After loading onto the bus and enjoying a bit of Ayuan's shenanigans, we made our way on to check out a convent set up in the late 1800s in Hakodate. This would be one of our breaks along the way to find Goryokaku. The convent is surrounded by beautiful landscaping, and even in December you can get the feeling of how gorgeous this place must be when all the trees and all the flowers are in full bloom. Behind me is a convent that was established in 1896 by 8 nuns from France who had come here to spread Catholicism and work for the people of Japan, and we're going to go take a look at what's going on up there right now. As you make your way into the convent, as you might expect, you're greeted by a statue of the Archangel Michael, complete with serpent underfoot. It's a pretty clear message. The original convent, built in 1896, actually was burned in 1925 and had to be reconstructed shortly thereafter. But the convent since then has expanded into a very large structure with dozens upon dozens of nuns living in it. In a place where temperatures dip well below 0 degrees centigrade on a regular basis in December, you would think that ice cream wouldn't be a staple food, but it seems to be at every tourist stop that we come to. So, when in Rome, cheers.
It's really good.
Hypothermia never tasted so good. Aside from reminding me that it was time to trim my mustache a little bit, the ice cream also proved how delicious Hokkaido's dairy products are. In fact, the area is quite famous for this in Japan, and the tourists who come here do so in part to enjoy that. If you're not in the mood for something cold on a sub-zero day, you can always keep your eye out for warm Hokkaido milk that many vendors sell at many of the tourist stops. I'd already enjoyed a bit of that milk earlier in our trip. With this little side stop complete, The quest for Goryokaku continued.
So from a French convent to a French-designed military fortress, I guess today's all about the French connection in Hokkaido.
Goryokaku dates back to the late 1800s, when the imperial government was resurging, and a shogunate stood against them in a civil war. Now, the French sided with the shogunate, and so, naturally, their base was designed after a French conception, which allowed for better defense of its gates.
Oh, gonna get my Goryokaku on.
If you ever decide to visit Goryokaku, you have a couple of options, one of which is the observation tower built outside of the fortress, which allows you a bird's eye view. But we've decided not to go there. Instead, we've decided for the ground view of the fortress. The fortress's defenses consist of a wide moat with a steep stone wall on the other side. This only allows entry to the fortress through one of two gates. As you make your way through the gate, if you look to the side, you can see the elevated areas that result from the points of the star. That's where the welcoming committee would be if you were trying to invade this fortress. I've decided to head up some interior stairs to that elevated area so I could get that view that the defenders of the base would have as they were being invaded.
So now I'm up on one of the elevated areas, inside one of the points of the star. And if you look down behind me there, you'll see one of the entrance gates to the fortress. And you can imagine how if you were attempting to repel an invading force, you'd have ample opportunity from this location to fire on them as they tried to make their way inside.
And the shogunate were packing some serious firepower too. Unfortunately for them, it wasn't enough to repel imperial invaders, and the administrative buildings inside quickly became non-administrative buildings, if you get my drift. Nonetheless, they're still there for tourists to enjoy, and they're beautiful. So after a few quick photo opportunities with Ayuen, and an object lesson in what will happen if he gets in one of my shots again, it was time to move on.
We're on our way to the Hakodate morning market.
It's hard to believe we packed this much in before noon, but we did, so we're off to the morning market to get a little bit of food and enjoy what it has to offer.
The king crab doesn't get much fresher than that.
Hokkaido isn't just famous for its dairy products, it's also famous for its seafood, including things like squid and king crab. So since we were at the morning market with all these delicious items available, we decided to try some. Ayuen made a quick run to grab some king crab buns for everyone to enjoy. A hot king crab bun on a cold day in Hokkaido is not much better than that. There are portions of the market that are indoors and others that are outdoors, so depending on your level of comfort and the weather outside, you can take your pick where you'd like to shop. All in all, wherever you go in the morning market, you'll have a blast. Having explored the Hakodate morning market, we headed to our final stop in the city. This time, we're headed to the Red Brick Warehouse in Hakodate, a shopping and restaurant district that has been created out of an old warehouse down by the port area. This small district has a few tiny shops and also a few restaurants, so we decided to go to one of those restaurants and get our mandatory dose of ramen, complete with the mandatory slurping. Just like that, our meal and our time in Hakodate were both over.
So we're all done with Hakodate now. Looks like we've seen the famous view of the city, we've seen the famous fortress, and we've made a few other interesting stops along the way. So now it's time to hop on that plane and head on to whatever's next.
Just like that, we're wheels up, back to Taiwan for the next adventure. See you guys for that one next time.